Hey there, everybody. I'm here today to share some of my reflections and the lessons that I learned during the Costa Rica Maymester experience. My name is Dylan. I'm a geography urban studies major at UC Denver, and I'm currently 3 credits shy of graduation, but I am also getting my GIS certificate, so I'll be in school just a short while longer. The reason that I decided to take this course is I've taken several courses with Dr. Rafael Moreno. One of those courses was Sustainability and Resource Management. So this course was basically an extension of that original course that I took. It's one thing to learn concepts and theories within the classroom, but it's another to be in the field and experience and see firsthand what some of those ideas and concepts look like. One of the concepts that we learned about is sustainability. It was really fascinating on the trip. There's lots of different moments where we saw and spoke about sustainability, but one of the ones that stood out to me was the farm that we went to. So it's a small scale operation. Don Carlos is the owner of the farm. They basically have cattle there, and the cattle make cheese. The interesting part about the sustainability factor of this particular farm was their ability to create a resource from their waste product. I know other people are doing this, but it was interesting to see firsthand. They basically process the manure and waste product from the cattle to create a methane gas in order to run their boiler, and their boiler is essentially what pasteurizes the milk in order to create the cheese. The cheese is sold locally, providing good quality product for local people. That wasn't even the most fascinating part of the sustainability of their project. To me, the most fascinating portion of the sustainability of the farm was the knowledge of Don Carlos, just as a generational farmer. You know, his father and his grandfather were farmers, and they've always had a connection to the land. He doesn't have a formal education, and he mentioned the fact that many different schools and people with educational backgrounds come and visit him, you know, some with advanced degrees, PhDs and things, and they speak to him in complex terms and ideas and things that he doesn't understand. But the fact that he doesn't understand doesn't mean that he doesn't understand. He's very well aware of his surroundings, and he had mentioned two particular things that really resonated with me. One was that he realizes we're not alone. We're all together. All people are together in this. And so what they do affects everybody. And so they consciously are aware of what types of things that they're doing on their small scale farm that can affect the greater population. You know, even one of the things was they use about 7 trees a year. So they plant 10 trees for every 1 tree they use because they're always going to need trees. They plant local trees and stuff that's indigenous to the region. And I just thought that that was a simple principle that they've been practicing for a long time, that goes a long way. The amount of knowledge that Don Carlos had being a generational farmer and a local was vast and extensive. And so, minus the formal education, he knew more about his land and his operation and his connection to the natural environment than many people with that formal education. So it was really fascinating to listen to him speak and just really enhance some of the stuff that we talked about in the resource management class about tacit knowledge and local knowledge, listening to the people that have been there for years and years, and not just trying to come in with you know, a solution, a one shot in the arm solution to fix particular problems. So that was a fascinating portion of the trip, to listen to somebody with that kind of knowledge. Also, the conservation and biodiversity. You can see the picture on the left is basically a forest that has not been fragmented, and then on the right you see a forest that has been fragmented from deforestation. Costa Rica used to be a large cattle society, but they have started to get away from that because there's other countries and other places that provide cattle, and so some of these pastures have basically been abandoned, or turned into different types of things like pineapple farms and tea plantations and things. One of the fascinating things about the forest fragmentation is that it affects biodiversity immensely. There's many animals, bugs, birds, and things down there that need larger swaths of land in order to thrive in their environment. And basically, deforesting these large areas fragments the forest into small islands of forest, or eliminating the forest altogether. You see a picture of a jaguar there. That's one of the animals that has massive areas of land that it needs in order to survive, and it's considered an endangered species now in Costa Rica, partly or mostly to blame from forest fragmentation. So it's very important to conserve the natural environment to preserve biodiversity. The things go hand in hand, which involves systems thinking. So along with the jaguar and the forest fragmentation, one of the things that I found fascinating as far as system thinking is when you deforest and fragment large areas like that, and you have animals such as jaguar, they lose their ability to communicate with all of the land around them. And so essentially, when these farmers put up grazing land for their cattle, it was new to the jaguar as well. And so the jaguar, being a smart animal, realized that the cattle is a good food source. So that area that used to be its land with forest is now cattle grazing land. Jaguars go and they basically use their food source. They don't finish it in one sitting, and so they return to the site until they finish their cattle. And so, knowing this, farmers poison the carcass of the cattle that the jaguar hunted in order to kill the jaguar. So the farmers presented the problem to themselves when they deforested the land for their cattle. So it's just a ongoing cycle. So they've created a incentive system in order to try to curb the killing of the jaguars. So they basically assess the death of the animal if it was done by a jaguar, and then they compensate the farmer for the loss of their cattle, plus give them extra to keep them from killing the jaguar. How successful it is, I'm not completely sure, but it seems like they're just getting at the symptom of the problem. Some of the other stuff is the pineapple farming that's going on, tea plantations. You see a picture of Lake Arenal there. Essentially, Arenal is diverting large amounts of water that would normally go to the Caribbean side. They're diverting it over to the dry side on the west side in order to do irrigation agriculture, which changes the natural environment and creates the ability to farm things that are not or otherwise would not be farmed in the region. The big threat right now is pineapple farms. Many of the people who had cattle land and things are now switching over to pineapple because it's an easy way to make money in large patches of land. The issue is the amount of herbicides and pesticides that are used to produce these pineapple. With the large amount of river connectivity within Costa Rica, it's basically affecting people hundreds of miles downstream, biodiversity, and the livelihood of many of the people that rely on the natural environment. And it's basically all economic. It comes down to money. One of many interesting things that Carlos from La Selva Biological Research Station had talked about is the value of the forest. How do you create a value for the forest? How do you make the forest as valuable or more valuable standing than it is cut down? And along with that, he talked about education and community outreach. How do you tell the people that the forest is just as valuable standing and not being cut down in order to have grazing land or pineapple farms or teak plantations? And that's really where the challenge lies with community outreach and trying to educate people. He's had a lot of pushback in these efforts to try to educate the public. The reason La Selva is been so successful because it was the purchasing of private lands and turning them to federal lands. It preserved the area, but things like this pineapple farming and cattle being close to river systems and defecating in the rivers and things are affecting things within the reserve. So even if you have large areas that are preserved and conserved, it's these types of activities that are affecting everything around them. That really was one of the main things that I took from this trip, is being able to see some of these processes firsthand. And initially, like, without learning about that, you might think, oh, well, why not pineapple? It's delicious. They make lots of money. But when it comes down to it, if you looked at the amount of things that it affects, then you might sing a different tune. One of the great ideas that Carlos had was investing in people's personal and private properties to protect small areas of forest to enhance the connectivity and to lessen the fragmentation of the forest in order to create corridors for wildlife to pass through. What a fantastic idea, with the amount of river networks and connectivity between those. It would basically be a highway system for many different types of animals. But even then, he's received some pushback from the local community, and it comes down to education once again. He really emphasized the importance of education, social, economic, and environmental. He also talked about community outreach, and funding. Funding is hard to come by, and it really presents a problem in the future, especially with global climate change. I really got a lot out of this trip, and was inspired to do more environmental work after seeing a lot of this stuff firsthand. Just really interesting. That's it, and hopefully this was informative for future students going on the trip, and hopefully you get something